Well, Trust the Flump has wiggled away secretly, and it is time to get into the last class, the Wizard. And depending on the time, I think we're going to start delving into the cultural aspects to the races that exist in Eberron. Arcane Aptitude. You've dabbled in magic and learned your first cantrip. Where do you go from here? This course provides a guided tour of the different schools of wizardry, their philosophies, and centers for learning. Are you better suited to abjuration or necromancy? You don't have to be a diviner to find the answer. Alright, so here is our 106 course, Magic of Antiquity. Oh, Delcorn says, if I were to DM a game, I'd accept pizza for minor boons and lasagna for major. Hey, you know what's going on, Delcorn. Lasagna is the good. The secrets and means of shaping the forces of creation are embedded within the principles of arcana magic. I wonder if they meant arcane instead. Thought to be a gift from Cerberus himself, and a true wizard seeks to master these principles with every waking hour. Even early on, the talents and versatility of a wizard are remarkable. A mage right could spend years mastering a single cantrip, while those who focus their efforts on dissecting a spell down to the repeatable arcane principles simply by studying scrolls and schematics, and who can reliably duplicate the effects, earn the moniker of wizard. As a wizard, you're an arcane scientist, and like any scientist, you could be diligent, eccentric, or even stark raving mad. Among the other magically inclined, you have every reason to be proud of your talents. Bards, stage magicians obsessed with fame, sorcerers, freaks who won the genetic lottery, warlocks, cheaters who bought their magic from someone else. You earned your power. You're a bona fide genius, and it's unlikely that anyone will soon forget how bright your brilliance burned, especially if you go out in a fireball of glory. Delcorn is Garfield confirmed, says Daly. Oh, if the lasagna is good enough, I may let a low-level character one-shot kill a beholder. Schools of thought. Wizards approach magic as a form of science, and from that perspective are likely to contemplate the underlying principles of magic more than any other spellcaster. A gesture, an incantation, and a particular form of thought can produce a magical result. But how does this happen? And what makes magic? Do the energies involved come from the planes or from Eberron itself? What is the difference between arcane and divine magic, or is there a difference at all? Arcane scholars have debated these questions throughout history. Every wizard has a theory and might be very well prepared to debate the question at great length with anyone who considers themselves a scholar of the arcane. Consider the popular... I suppose that's... consider the popular theories instead of theorize. Consider the popular theorize circulated around Eberron, which are provided on the table below. Most wizards decide early in their curriculums which theories support their philosophy of magic, or come up with their unique rationalizations. So, I love it. More character prompting. What is the nature of your magic? You have your school, but within your school could be all of these debates taking place. If we were to pretend generate, or at least partially generate a character, let's roll a d6 and find out what this wizard thinks of their magic. In fact, we'll even roll a d8, just for poops and ha-has. Let's go to our wizard. All right. So we are going to be 5. So we have abjuration, abjuration, conjuration, divination, enchantment, evocation. Ooh. So let's pretend that we have a school of evocation wizard that is of the opinion 2. Dominion theory. All magic is a gift of the sovereigns and 6. The rituals and incantations are window dressing, and there's no fundamental difference between arcane and divine magic. Proponents of this theory are often called loyalists or crazies by some, as they decree that arcane magic is a delusion. So here, you are a wizard. You evoke magic. You create elemental effects. But in honesty, this is simply a communion with the gods still. You may be a very faithful person. You could be a religious wizard. There's nothing wrong with that. Bacon-wrapped lasagna, deep-fried bacon-wrapped lasagna. Delcorn is kind of drooling over the thoughts here. Chicken-fried bacon-wrapped lasagna. How deep does this go? I guess as deep a dish as you need for the lasagna. How would you get power from a deity you don't believe in or worship? What's to say that you don't? Or rather that your ability to access it is simply that the gift exists, right? The magic, the potential is all around you. Your focus is how to take the ether from the air and manifest it as you do. Chicken stuffed with lasagna wrapped in bacon, deep fried, says Oh Sheeps. All right. Also, what was our type of education? I love this type of storytelling. D8. So we have an evoker who believes that magic is a gift from the gods and that wizardry is simply our accessing this divine gift. Yeah, all magic is a gift of the sovereigns and six. The rituals and incantations are window dressing, and there's no fundamental difference between arcane and divine magic. Proponents of this theory are often called loyalists or crazies by some, as they decree that arcane magic is a delusion. Now, our arcane training is number 4, Mystical Mentor. You have no formal educational training, but you learn the arts of wizardry through one-on-one study from an exceptional teacher. Perhaps your mentor was an officer during the Great Conflict like the last war, a stranger hoping to repay a past kindness or kindle talent, or they traveled the roadways and border town circuits after having been thrown out of one of the major institutes due to unorthodox or forbidden methods. So here, this character learned from someone else who, him or herself, might have been seen as a crazy, as, you know, what do you mean there's, you know, this person's preaching, there's no difference between the arcane and divine. And, you know, people are going, oh, that crazy bah humbug and all this. Well, this is what this wizard has learned. You had this mystical mentor that taught you, like, this, you know, way of combining. Yep, no problem, Delcorn. I don't mind going over that stuff again. All right, so considerations for your wizard. How did you get your arcane training? What is the, you know, what can you use as an arcane focus? What does it count as? What do they do? How can you, you know, make it relevant as more than just a passive, like a gateway to cast a spell? The Dungeon Master's Guide and other sourcebooks present a wide variety of magical wands, staffs, and rods, but there are considerably fewer orbs and crystals in the treasure tables. As a DM, you can take an existing magic item and simply change the form. If you're creating an adventure set in an Arany crypt, and want the player characters to find a wand of fireballs, you can make it a crystal of fireballs to give it more distinctive Areni flavor. In changing the form of an item, remember that all arcane focuses typically require one hand to use effectively. If you, so you get your magical abilities from the FSM. I mean, that's kind of like a great old one, or maybe even a celestial, depending on the way you want to look at it. So yeah, I mean, cosmetically replacing that stuff, just bear it in mind. Now in 4th edition, there was a difference between what happened to your spells if you cast them through a rod, a staff, a wand, or an orb. I thought that was really cool. But in 5th ed, yeah, it's just more, what's your flavor? Ra'amen. Something else to think about. Where did you learn this? You know, if you went to an arcane institution, now nothing's saying that this sort of mock character kind of learned in a very informal way, or through traditional practices, but not in a traditional wizard school. Think about the institutions that exist in the world, whether or not you are a part of it. Is there some sort of a magical congress, a council that regulates magic? Is there an inter-school war between various wizard factions to prove themselves to be the most competent? You know, what if wizards are actually the most common spellcasters because it's a part of formal education, but there's a civil war going on that's splitting the populace? You know, allegiances can shift. There's 8 different groups of magic, which honestly, even with the above, can split even further. Or you can even just have the 8. You can just have the Cold War, a hot war, especially with fireballs, or something else, a conflict or a tension about the philosophy. So you have 6 schools of philosophy, and any of the philosophies can contain any of the schools, or they all just work in harmony. So a lot of in-lore, in Eberron lore-focused considerations that you can always extrapolate into your own home campaign. And by the way, here's our own Morgrave University, of which we're sitting right now and taking a course. I'm glad I'm not planning to play a caster. Why is that, Dalcorin? It's an insane amount of lore to reflect. It doesn't have to be at all. Not at all, Delcorn. Don't let that scare you. These are all things you can think about, but don't necessarily have to think about. And in many cases, a dungeon master might ask you, all right, so which school do you want to play? And you say, well, I want to play an abjurer. Okay, and here's the information. Here's the abjuration school, some NPCs, and here you go. It's talking about wizardry as a part of an advanced civilization. And we finally get to our subclass, our School of Antiquities. True seekers of knowledge, wizards of the School of Antiquities learn the civics, ethics, and philosophies of a bygone era, and how best to prevent such follies. Heralded as cataclysm mages by many, these scholars focus their studies on the fall of ancient civilizations from varied sources across the multiverse, and specifically, the events that culminated their demise. Perhaps by design, they often find the parallel weaknesses of those antiquated societies, learning to use their studies against those who might cause such a cataclysm to befall the world once more. Usually the choice of anthropologists, archaeologists, and linguists Their magical studies parallel what they learn through etymology, ancient ruined dig sites, or in the field. Among the tribal remnants of once dominant societies, plagued by disaster that lay an age to rest, self-inflicted or otherwise. Delcorin says, I think it'd be fun to be a random farmer dude who came across a book laying open along the road, picked it up, read some passages, and launched a fireball somewhere. That's fine for a wizard concept. Yeah, you could do something along those lines, Delcorin. You know, you could even play it off that, you know, the character isn't particularly intelligent, but perhaps the book, the magic in the book somehow formed a bond, and is what is granting this farmer the ability to use it. All right, so you don't get a lot as a wizard in the terms of your subclass, because being a full caster that can learn darn near every spell, that's your primary. That's what you get primarily. But you do get a couple things along the way here. Second level when you get your school, and then you get some continued focus on that. So at second level, your aptitude for understanding the motivations of past civilizations is matched only by the dedication you place in unearthing the secrets of each age. You gain proficiency in the history and religion skills if you don't already have it. At second level, you learn to exploit the weaknesses found during your studies and put them to practical use. When you cast one of your wizard cantrips that targets one creature with an attack roll or a saving throw, you can add your proficiency bonus to the damage you deal with that spell. The damage is the same type as the spell you cast. A low wisdom wizard is so good. Tuscan, welcome. Good evening to you. Thanks for coming by. And don't be fooled too, in 5th edition, you can play a low intelligence wizard. It doesn't even have to be low wisdom. You can play a low intelligence wizard and still have a meaningful role in a group. Starting at 6th level, your significant investment of study in certain societies and the cataclysmic events leading to their extinction have yielded your first great breakthroughs in truly understanding these cultures' folly. Choose a creature type: aberrations, celestials, dragons, elementals, fae, fiends, giants, monstrosity, or one type of humanoid, such as dwarves, goblins, or humans. You have advantage on all intelligence checks to find or recall information about their cultures and empires, as well as the cataclysmic events leading to their downfall. When you gain this feature, you also learn one language of your choice that is spoken by that empire. You choose one additional creature type as well as an associated language at 10th and 14th level. As you gain levels, your choices should reflect the types of empires you have encountered or studied on your adventures. I wholeheartedly agree with that, and I do believe that for Rangers, it should be the same. I love utility divination wizard, says Lysaria. So what, like a low intelligence, like enough, because, you know, a lot of divinity is just sort of like yes or no. There's no real saves or attack spells per se. So you can run a low intelligence divination and then, I don't know, focus on being a muscle wizard if you really wanted to. Personal prophecy. At 10th level, your subconscious begins to unravel the path before your waking mind. You are always under the effects of an alarm spell, which emanates from you in a 20-foot cube. You can designate creatures that won't set off the alarm whenever you complete a short or long rest. The alarm projects a mental or audible ping that only you can sense and awakens you if you're sleeping. Additionally, any creature types you have selected for your Empire of Secrets feature have disadvantage on attack rolls against you while inside this cube, and you can't be charmed, frightened, or possessed by them. Surveyor of Ruin. Beginning at 14th level, your persistence has shown where you look for the specifics that predicate the demise of those you study. As an action, you can choose one creature that you can see within 60 feet of you, and can quickly deduce certain information about it from your studies. The DM tells you the creature's type, but not its identity, and if it's your equal, superior, or inferior regarding armor class and current hit points. If your target is one of the creature types you have selected for your Empire of Secrets feature, you immediately learn whether the creature has any damage immunities, resistances, or vulnerabilities, and what they are. Divination magic can't hide this information from you, and the additional damage you deal with your Aftermath feature is doubled for this creature. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your intelligence modifier minimum once. You regain all expended uses of it when you finish a long rest. I like it. So you're missing out, I guess, on, you know, the savant, right? Because you're not specializing in a school of magic, which, you know, for the most part, it can be okay. You know, gold comes and goes. Downtime is what it is. I do think that these abilities play well together, and especially in a campaign that has ancient civilizations and the like. This is interesting because it's almost like a ranger wizard. I don't know if any of you are getting that feel. You're getting a ranger wizard. Lone wizard that uses more skills and RP-based spells rather than DPS. Exactly, Lysarius. You're going to play Mass Effect? All right, Dull. If you're going to broadcast, make sure to let us know about that, too. Yeah, Klepto, you can play... making a non-optimal character is very viable in 5th edition. So you can play a low-intelligence wizard and still be able to do a lot of stuff. So, I don't know, offhand, I don't really have any sort of major issues with it's specialized. So, is this wizard going to be as universal to a campaign as a traditional one of the 8 schools wizard? No. I think, though, in many stories, or especially if you know you're going to be getting into something that involves ancient civilizations, a wizard like this would be awesome in Tomb of Annihilation, or even in Curse of Strahd. Coffee Cat, there are a lot of things I want to do with Mordecai thematically, so he may not be the highest charisma bard. Yeah, and you don't always have to be. I mean, your proficiency is going to do a lot of work that you don't need to have a maximized main stat either. The cube is like a ranger's favorite terrain, but portable and small radius. Organic. By the way, I like that name, Organic Artist. Yeah, exactly. I really like the flavor. You know, it's specialized, and that's fine because you are a specialist. And it also draws you into the story because you're not just a general specialist or a specialist of overall magic in a particular school. You are focusing on a particular type of civilization or people. And this has a lot of roleplay potential, let alone battlefield mechanics, whether you're casting spells or you're doing something that's utility-based. You know, maybe you want to RP a little bit too. But that's the thing. A good campaign is like real life. You don't know what everyone is capable of. You don't know how things are going to go. People's histories are what they are. You can't change it based on current circumstances. Yep. Klepto. In fact, when I learn little bits about you all, I mean, so, you know, when you said that you were in the military, that would be, you know, a little tidbit. Like you're bringing these things that, you know, happened in the past. They've shaped you who you are today, and you're here and now sharing your stories, your outlook on life, all of this based on that. Organic, as an assassin, they'd be devastating. Oh yes, Organic. Yeah, if you choose a humanoid, like if you do that and you sneak up because you're gonna go, you're gonna gank them, or if you multi-class into assassin. We made a divination, a divination wizard rogue assassin, and that was, ooh, you could put in work with that. But for sure, this could mix even as a wizard itself. You know, you can assassinate with spells. That's a good way of looking at it, Organic Artist. Thank you for bringing that up. Rolling with the punches, yeah. It's easy if you have the best character. If you have 18s and 20s in all your stats, you know, and then we kind of get into, you know, Mary Sue character status. Those types of characters aren't as compelling as characters that have flaws, characters that have low stats, characters that might have even a self-imposed disadvantage or a disability in some way. One of my players in the store's Thursday game said that she wanted her character to only have one eye. And I told her, okay, I can roll with this. For the most part, you can adventure normally. There may be times where I will have you roll perception at disadvantage because of that. However, if you can think of creative uses that having, you know, one eye, you know, could bring, you know, it could be, I don't know, a resistance to save against a bright flash. It could be, and this is something she does, she lifts her eye patch and boop, stores like some gems in there so people can't find it. So there's a give and a take, and I love that sort of development and that workup. Yeah, they know their target. Exactly, Organic. Fighting a god when you have a wizard who does no damage and a barbarian that can't rage. Woo! That'll make an encounter fun. It'll make it creative for sure. It'll definitely make it creative. Not unwinnable either. You're not fighting in an obvious sense. You know, making a dex barb could be interesting, even though rage is off of strength. And that's not even asking your DM to say, well, can it be dex instead of strength? So I like this. I think this is I think this would be a fun, specialized but a fun wizard school to explore. The cultures of Eberron. So here we are. We finished our 12 classes. I was about to say jobs. We finished our 12 classes. And now let's take a look at the racial considerations. There is going to be a lot of, well, culture and history. This is going to be a lore deep dive. However, you can see that there's Talenta Halflings. So these are options as well as culture and well, not background. There are backgrounds. That's later. All right, so it talks about this. I don't want to get into all the details. I know I say this repeatedly. I want to make sure that I'm getting into it. I do want to leave stuff for you to read, and I want to leave stuff for you to discover in this document. I want to focus on the crunchy bits more than delving deeply into the Eberron setting. The setting is what it is, and I think it has a draw for a lot of people. The setting can also seem like a counterbalance if you think that a class or subclass is overpowered. It's because in this setting, there's actually another disadvantage that is expected to kind of balance out the mechanics. So you could determine, why did you leave the Talenta Plains as a Talenta Halfling? Let's roll a d6 and a 4. Okay. Your tribe has sent you to learn more about the distant lands and to find allies that could help your people in the days ahead. Great, that prompts questions. What's going on? Is there an invasion? A disease? Are there omens of war? So everything is actually fine right now, but it doesn't hurt to have allies. Organic says, having balanced stats and well-rounded abilities is a fun option too. Many people seem to paint them as in a boring light. I can agree with that sentiment, Organic. You know, where we want to, like, it's an intrinsic thing that we want to see high numbers. We want to make sure that we have more successes than failures. When it comes to feats for Mordecai, Defensive, Duelist, and Observant are definite picks, but the order in which I take them is my constant dilemma. Hey, if you gotta flip a coin, you know, take one, get it out of the way now. I like making a character as realistic as possible, flaws, weaknesses, and failings. This allows you to find how you fit your group or story rather than we need a wizard. Exactly, Klepto. That is why in 5th edition, the background as a part of your character is amazing. It bridges fluff to crunch, and at least tries to act as a speed bump to get you to consider where your character came from, what they did before they were an adventurer, who your character is, not what your character does. Yes, Organic, exactly. So we would also get a Talenta totem, you know, something that we would carry because it's part of this tribe's beliefs. Actually, let's go over here to races. I love this character. While halflings of all shapes and sizes can be found wandering the Talenta plains, the Talenta Halfling Tribes are unique to the plains, reflecting the upbringing of a Talenta warrior. These proud peoples are strong, trained in the unique weapons of the plains, and possess a close bond to the beasts that play an important role. All right. Oh, snap! Katie Sue and some others have come seeking enlightenment. Welcome, Doomfish, Katie Sue, and the others who've come over in the raid. Welcome, welcome. Yeah, they are dinosaur riders. Death Metal Bard, anyone? How fun would a Warlock Bard be? Yep, Halflings on Raptors. That's exactly what you get here with these Eberron Halflings, Organic. Ask your DM if you can play a member of the subrace, which has the halfling traits in the player's handbook, but the subrace traits below. So this is a halfling then that would have Dex 2, Strength 1. You gain proficiency in animal handling, and you double your bonus granted to rolls related to calming or domesticating beasts and dinosaurs. And Talenta weapons training. You have proficiency with the Sarash and Tangat, which are weapons unique to the halflings of the Talenta Plains. And those are, let's see. Weapons with special rules are described here. The weapons of the Talenta Plains are designed and balanced perfectly for the halfling build, allowing Talentan warriors to match foes armed with great swords and lances. Because remember, if you're small and you are wielding a weapon that is two-handed, as per Chapter 5 in the player's handbook, you wield it at disadvantage. The Sarash is a scythe-like weapon on the end of a long pole originally made for herding herbivores through the grasslands from dinosaur back, and the Tangat is a long curved blade mounted on a short haft favored among the Talenta warriors. While anyone with martial weapons training can use these weapons, they are awkward and unwieldy in other hands. 2d4 slashing, 1d4 slashing, heavy reach, special two-handed. So this does have two-handed, but it looks like there might be some considerations. Using the attack action, you can make a special melee attack with your Sarash to knock a creature prone. If you're able to make multiple attacks with the attack action, this replaces one of them. The target must be no more than one size larger than you and must be within your reach. Instead of making an attack roll, you make a strength athletics check contested by athletics or acrobatics. You succeed automatically if the target is incapacitated. If you succeed, you knock the target prone. The special attack has no effect on creatures that are huge or larger. As a halfling, you have a disadvantage on all attack rolls and contested checks made with a Sarash if you're within 5 feet of a hostile creature, and while mounted, you ignore the heavy... Oh, it's heavy, not two-handed, I believe. And you ignore the heavy property, and its damage is 4d4. And the Tangat... Okay, yeah, that's what it was, not two-handed. As a halfling, you ignore the heavy property, and its damage is increased to 3d4. So this is how you can have a heavy... so it's heavy for people out... So a gnome, right? A gnome isn't a halfling, so heavy for a small creature would still impose disadvantage. But to halflings, and in particular Talenta Halflings, it wouldn't count as a heavy weapon to get disadvantage. Coffee Cat, have a great night. Thank you for hanging out with us. I look forward to trying to catch a stream for you next time you go up, if you think you know when that'll be. Just seems like it would be fun. Oh, Barbarians are a lot of fun. Oathbreakers that serve hags, that would be hilarious. Yeah, I mean, because is there really a big difference between warlocks and paladins? Not so sure. Shifters. These are people who do have a lycanthropic lineage. They are half-were creatures. It's not like an inflicted disease. They do have a control over it. So, lots of good lore. And I'll leave that up to you all. Yeah, we'll do kind of a customary number 6. You keep mementos of important events and relationships. These include victories in battle, but also tokens of people and places you want to remember. Good character building. If I were your DM, I'd say, what are some of these tokens? Describe them. Tell me about them. You know what? Because maybe these people exist and you can go see them in this world. Maybe they're dead and you know, it's a compelling motivator to go get the BBEG. All right, so here are some shifter subraces. Now, shifters are in here. They are in the Wayfinder's Guide to Eberron. So there are shifter traits, and then there are these sub-races of shifters as well, which it looks like we're going to be getting into. Cliffwalk shifters typically act prideful and aloof, but those closest to them know these mannerisms mask a shy and introverted countenance. They prefer high altitudes where they have ample time to gauge and react to threats. When they shift, subtle fur elongates for warmth. Their senses and eyes focus acutely, and their hands and feet harden to provide greater protection from crevice and crag. Cliffwalk shifters have the following traits in common, in addition to the traits they share with other shifters. So your dexterity and intelligence... Oh, so 1 dex, 1 int, along with the base of dexterity, 1. So we'd go up dex 2, int 1. You have a climbing speed of 30 feet, and while shifting, moving through difficult terrain costs you extra movement. I guess it's a little awkward if they say that your senses and eyes focus acutely, yet they give you intelligence and not wisdom. Because wisdom is perception-based, right? I don't know. I never have any idea. I usually post a notice on the Discord. Yeah, you are pretty good about that, Coffee. The tokens are ears, says Klepto. So then, you know, and then as the DM, you know, so whose ears? Why those ears and not others? Or are you just in it to collect a bunch of ears? So it's cool. You have a climbing speed of 30 feet, and while shifting, moving through difficult terrain costs you no extra movement. Fun little, you know, it makes you a goat person. Swiftwing. Swiftwing are typically the charmers and songbirds of the shifters, usually mingling late into the morning, sometimes to the chagrin of their companions. Light on their feet and graceful above all else, a Swiftwing prizes beauty, community, and loyalty. When shifting, marrow within a Swiftwing's bone structure shifts to lighten their form and reinforce leathery webbing all over their bodies, providing aerodynamic support in the air. Swiftwing Shifters have the following traits in common. Your Charisma and Dex increase by 1, so it's Dex 2, Charisma 1. Our jump distance is doubled. And while shifted, you can use your bonus action to gain a flying speed of 30 feet until you land. At the end of each of your turns, your altitude drops by 5 feet. Your altitude drops instantly to 0 at the end of your turn if you didn't fly at least 30 feet horizontally on that turn. When your altitude drops to 0 feet, you land or fall, and you must use another bonus action to gain the flying speed again. Alright, so while shifted, you can use your bonus action to gain a flying speed of 30 feet until you land. At the end of each of your turns, your altitude drops by 5 feet. So it's kind of like a gliding. So you can get 30, but then you're slowly, every turn you're going down 5 feet. Your altitude drops instantly to 0 at the end of your turn if you didn't fly at least 30 feet horizontally on that turn. When your altitude drops to 0 feet, you land or fall. Okay, so it can seem a little awkwardly worded, but it's saying that you have to keep moving and you get a fly speed. Otherwise, it's like a powered gliding, maybe instead of flying. Truedive. Curious, intelligent, and expressive, Truedives are those shifters with no qualms about jumping right into the dubious depths. This can unnerve other shifters, but their impulsiveness is often misinterpreted. Their awareness makes the consideration of situational danger, odds of survival, and learning potential nearly subconscious. Leading their kin... I guess that should be leading their kin? Leading their kin to predetermine the worth of such folly as much as success. As they shift, their lungs swell to help them thrive in the natural environment beneath the water. Truedive shifters have the following traits in common, in addition to the traits they share with other shifters. So this is con and int. So in this case, with a Truedive, you get 1 dex, 1 con, and 1 int. You have a swim speed of 30 feet, and while shifting, you can breathe underwater. You have resistance to cold damage, and you ignore any of the drawbacks caused by a deep underwater environment. Must move a full 30 feet horizontal each round. Well, there are the ears of my most worthy foes. On the day that my awareness ear is removed from me, I will know it was a great warrior. Oh, I see. I like that sort of thinking, this impromptu warrior, mentality. Then you can sleep in peace, because you'll be listening to the victories of a warrior that was even greater than you. So by taking the ear, it's actually a mark of prestige. If you respected someone you killed, you take their ear. So that they can hear the victories, that they can appreciate that the person who killed them has gone on and has, had more and more victories, and that they're a part of it. And then if someone takes your ear, then you can hear this even greater, the greater feats and victories and conquests of someone who's even able to best you. I like that. Klepto, yep. My mind to your mind. My thoughts to your thoughts. I will roleplay a damn sneeze. Oh. Strongest in a certain way? Is that... I mean, in an underwater environment, obviously having a swimming speed is super good. Oh yeah, I totally get it, Klepto. I can't stop it. Hey, and you were having fun with the adventure prompts that we were doing last night. I think you did a I think you did a good job with that, Klepto. All right, tieflings. Why and how do tieflings exist in Eberron? You can read this to find out, or you could just pause this video and read this, I suppose, if you want. But, you know, get the book and read and have this reflect on a tiefling character you're currently playing. Maybe it's going to help you come up with something that makes your tiefling unique at the tabletop. Tieflings are rare in Eberron. Tiefling subraces. At the DM's option, you can create a tiefling character who has a special link to one of the extraplanar beings or manifest zones of Eberron. This link is represented by a subrace. If your tiefling has a subrace, choose one of the following options, whichever one corresponds to your bloodline. The traits of the chosen subrace replace the tiefling's ability score increase, infernal legacy, and hellish resistance traits in the player's handbook. There's one exception. Those tieflings who trace their ancestry to Kaluun. Those tieflings use the traits in the player's handbook. Immunity to drowning and swim speed is a lower tier of burrowing. And yeah, combat burrowing. Yeah, exactly, Organic. It's, you know, just limited to the water, and, you know, it is specialized because how many times do you end up in the water in a campaign? Maybe not a lot, but you know what? In the times that you do, you wish that you had that kind of maneuverability and survivability. Lysaria, oh, you do a lot of water-based encounters. Play some 3D&D underwater. What's our Tiefling Origin? Let's roll a d6 and imagine. A 3. Direct influence. You have a direct connection to a particular fiend. Your parents might have made a bargain with this being. You might believe you've descended from a demon or your bloodline cursed, and your physical form is the result. This degree of direct influence is common among the Sakah tieflings of the Demon Wastes. All right, let's go to tieflings. So, it's because tieflings don't necessarily have sub-races, they are going to get different traits that are just going to replace what we see here. So, the Kaluun is traditional tiefling in the player's handbook. A Sakah tiefling, your charisma increases by 2 and dex by 1, instead of charisma 2, int by 1. You have resistance to poison damage. So instead of fire, it's poison. You know the primal savagery cantrip instead of thaumaturgy. And then, so the racial spell casting at 3rd level, you can cast Disguise Self spell. And then at 5th, you get Dust Devil instead of Hellish Rebuke at 2nd and Darkness. Dolurrhi. Your charisma by 2, wisdom by 1. You're resistant to psychic damage. That's pretty cool. You know the Vicious Mockery cantrip. When you reach 3rd level, you can cast Dissonant Whispers. And when you reach 5th level, you can cast Crown of Madness. Ooh. And they are definitely products of these very particular places. So I do like, then, that they're presenting the tieflings as they're very rare, but they are they're modeled after the place where they were created. And it's a part of them. They're carrying aspects of this place in physical form. Yeah, tieflings have the kind of sorta, even in the Sword Coast Adventurers Guide, there's options for like tiefling subrace aspects. Oh, sheep's underwater. Yeah, underwater combat. It could be very interesting. And actually, I'll see your emote, oh sheeps, with a. There we go. Practically nothing gets resistance to psychic damage. Yeah, psychic and force are probably some of the least resisted types. But then again, as a tiefling, This makes you not resistant to the most common type of damage, which is fire. Well, outside of like bludgeoning, slashing, and whatever. Let's see, a Fernian tiefling. It's touched by endless flames of the Sea of Fire. Their skin is orange-red. So cosmetic stuff here. Your Charisma 2, Intelligence 1. So that's the same as the normal tiefling. You're resistant to fire, okay. And then, but you have this legacy of flame. So your genetic or your inherent spells are different. Control Flames cantrip. You can cast Searing Smite as a 2nd level spell. And at 5th level, you get Flaming Sphere. Okay. Let's see. Kythri. Constant change and instability. So a chaotic plane. Charisma 2, Int 1. Resistant to acid damage. You know the Infestation cantrip. And then you get Chaos Bolt and Blindness Deafness. Ooh, alright then. A Mabari tiefling. Charisma 2, Wisdom 1. Okay. And you're resistant to necrotic damage, so I'm getting kind of like a paladin cleric kind of a feel. You know the Minor Illusion cantrip. When you reach 3rd level, you can cast the Charm Person spell. And when you reach 5th level, you can cast the Suggestion spell. Risian, okay, so you're a cold tiefling. Charisma 2, Con 1. Ooh, alright. You're resistant to cold damage. You know the Frostbite cantrip. You can cast, Armor of Agathis as a 2nd level spell. That's pretty cool. When you reach 5th level, you can cast Snillock's Snowball Swarm once with this trait. That must be out of Xanathar's. I'm not familiar offhand with that spell, if any of you know what it is. Yeah, there's a lot of ways to get resistances also. Shavaran tieflings resemble the fiends that fought the endless war of the eternal battleground. Their horns appear to be made of iron, and their skin is a scaly texture. Charisma 2, Strength 1. Okay. So they're kind of treading a little bit into Dragonborn territory. You have proficiency with... so instead of resistance to magic, you have proficiency with light and medium armor and with shields. Oh, so this is almost like a mountain dwarf tiefling. Good paladins. Well, every paladin gives you the shields anyway, and all that. Legacy of War. You know the Blade Ward cantrip, Heroism spell at 2nd level, and then the Shadow Blade spell. So good for a very... Good for a very combat-heavy tiefling. Such as... so here's a mini from the Mad Mage set that's currently out. That's the newest set. So a tiefling, like that would be... if your DM allows it, would be more apt to be more of a melee combatant, it seems. Oh, I like that stretching cat. That's great. And then I do have some more Pokemans also. I have more than that too, but those are some fun ones. All right, what are the Dragonforged? Warforged in peacetime. The Warforged pose difficult questions. What is the role of a living weapon in a time of peace? Is it possible for a manufactured thing to have a soul? What is the economic impact of Warforged labor? This course explains or explores the history and possible future of this new race. I will personally read the fluff. I don't want to read it for the same reason here. But this is a new race as a Dragonforged, right? It doesn't have a subrace, but this is what a Dragonforged is and gets. If you want to know more about this, again, please support the makers and get the PDF. Let's see, though, if as a race it's, I don't know, kind of awkward or broken or doesn't make sense. It probably won't be any of those things, but it doesn't hurt to check, right? Did your emails get used? I'm not sure I understand what you're saying, Organic. Your strength score increases by 2 and intelligence score increases by 1. All known Dragonforged are between 5 and 6 years old. Like Warforged, their maximum lifespan remains a mystery. So far, Warforged have shown no signs of deterioration due to age, and neither do the Dragonforged. Dragonforged find order and discipline compelling. Most tend toward a benevolent consideration for other creatures inherited from their maker. While most assimilate the ethics and reasoning of the beings they share company with, the general approach and personality can be affected by their draconic history. But they're not bound to a specific alignment. I'm sorry, pardon me, everyone. That was kind of random. Medium size, between 6 and 7.5 feet tall, and averaging over 400 pounds. Walking speed of 30 feet. Okay, pretty standard. You're created to have remarkable fortitude, represented by the following benefits. You have advantage on saving throws against being poisoned, and you have resistance to poison damage. You are immune to disease. You don't need to eat, drink, or breathe. You don't need to sleep and don't suffer the effects of exhaustion due to lack of rest, and magic can't put you to sleep. I think the Warforged had that as sort of a bread and butter for them as well. Your hide is a blend of organic, scale, and segmented plates. You have a natural armor class of 15 plus proficiency bonus, and you count as both Dragonborn and Warforged. You gain no benefit from wearing armor, but if you are using a shield, you can apply the shield's bonus. Alright, so that's important for things like racial feats, if you count as Dragonborn and Warforged. Sentry's Rest. When you take a long rest, you must spend at least 6 hours of it in an inactive, motionless state, rather than sleeping. In this state, you appear inert, but it doesn't render you unconscious, and you can see and hear as normal. So you just have to be still for 6 hours. But you can be on full aware patrol. Draconic Fission. During your creation, you are fitted with a magical device in your maw that mimics the effects of a dragon's breath weapon. You know the Gust cantrip. When you reach 3rd level, you can cast the Chromatic Orb spell once with this trait, and regain the ability to do so when you finish a long rest. When you reach 5th level, you can cast the Dragon's Breath spell once with this trait, and regain it after a long rest. Constitution is your spellcasting ability for these spells. And you get Common and Draconic. Seems pretty good. I like the sub races and the new race. It makes sense. It's like the next step for Warforged. If someone wants to play even something different, I guess you could argue. I mean, Warforged actually have sub races though. This is kind of its own parallel. All right, so what I want to do here, hey Triad, welcome. Let's take a quick break, like, I don't know, 5 minutes or so. I'm going to get up and stretch again. Especially if I had that yawn coming up. You got to get the blood stirring, right? Twist and do a little Matty Morg's yoga here, a little D&D yoga. So we'll come back in a couple minutes, and then I think we could get another segment under our belts here when we talk about dragon marks, because dragon marks are very important for the Eberron setting.